Welcome to the Anglian Flaneurs. Today we're in Spitalfields. It's a warm Friday afternoon in early July. We'll soon be walking along Bishopsgate and we'll look at some of the amazing vistas, the ever-changing vistas of the City of London, with incredible number of skyscrapers now in the distance, and an increasing number, I must say, even with COVID and post-COVID times. The building seems to still be going on at some pace. You just wonder who will be working in some of these buildings. What we know as Bishopsgate was part of the former Roman Ermine Street. We're crossing the road and very soon we'll see the Bishopsgate Institute, a place very dear to my heart. I've sat many exams there over the years and it has an amazing library that's well worth a visit. We'll soon be walking along Wilkes Street on the edges of the market in the direction of Christchurch, Spitalfields. You'll see it in the distance, one of the magnificent Nicholas Hawksmoor churches. If you've seen some of these videos before, you'll know we're a big fan of these churches. We've done a few in recent and past videos. St Alphegus Church in Greenwich, St Mary's Walnut in the City of London, and St Anne's Limehouse. I've tried to eulogise before about the magnificence of the Hawksmoor churches, probably miserably so because I haven't really got a clue what I'm on about. So I won't repeat past mistakes, but I'll mention something about the restoration that happened, because by the 60s the church here was nearly derelict and services were being held in the church hall, which was an ex-Huguenot chapel in Hanbury Street. I believe the Hawksmoor committee staved off the threats of demolition of the church, and for a while it became a rehabilitation centre for alcoholics. But I think it was really the Friends of Christchurch in the mid-70s, an independent charity, that started raising money and raised a project to restore this wonderful building so it could be brought back into use. I just think the church fits perfectly with the area. This area of London, it might not fit elsewhere. That's just a personal view. I really couldn't give you a reason for that. It's just a feeling I have. I'm just going to take you through some of these back streets of Spitalfields. They are rather special, and there's a particularly special road that you'll see very shortly called Artillery Lane, and I believe this area was used as the old artillery ground and was used for weaponry practice in Tudor times. During the reign of King Henry VIII, I believe it was common practice that every male of a certain age would have to practice with a long bow on a Sunday afternoon for several hours. Also close by is a pub called the King's Stores, named because I believe it was a munitions dump and store under the reign of Henry VIII. Also very soon we'll be walking past Otterlengi's, which just happened to be one of my wife's favourite restaurants. We've done our detour through Artillery Lane, and now we're back onto Bishopsgate Street, heading towards Christchurch, Spitalfields. The building on our right hand side as we walk towards Christchurch, Spitalfields is the converted ex-wool and fruit exchange, which is now commercial and retail businesses. We'll hover here for a moment, taking a magnificent building, the church, and also look at the 10 Bells, a popular drinking haunt, and I believe that's where two of the victims of Jack the Ripper used to hang out and used to drink. We're not going to mention Jack the Ripper too many times. We are going to go through the streets where victims were sadly murdered, but there's a lot of history out there. There's a lot of YouTube channels already out there documenting all the Jack the Ripper history, so we don't really want to repeat too much of that information. We're now heading into the market. I think it's nearly closing time. Just a little background history. There's been a market here since about the mid-17th century, just a bit later, just after the Fire of London. And it functioned as a market until 1991, until the market moved to Leighton in East London. In 2005, a massive regeneration programme took place, and it's now developed the market as you see it. We'll just film for about 4 or 5 minutes so you just get a feel for the market late on a Friday afternoon, people closing up, people finishing off work, going for drinks, going for something to eat. So hopefully you get a feeling and a vibe of what the new market is about. There's some really good places to eat and drink around here. I'll be finishing off the evening by going to the grocer. We'll see that in a few moments. I've just had a wonderful cup of tea and a fantastic chocolate and raspberry cake. I know I'm going over a little bit over the top, but it is a Friday afternoon. Just to clarify, what we're seeing here is very much the new Spitalfields Market. What I was talking about prior to 1971 is called the old Spitalfields Market. Sorry about this, I tend to be going around in circles, just trying to capture everything. I'm wandering around aimlessly, probably filmed it for too long. Please bear with me, it's Friday afternoon, it's a warm day, and yeah, I'm losing concentration here. This is where I'll be stopping off after I've done the walk. This has been somewhat of a saviour to me over the years. When you do long distance commuting and you hit Liverpool Street of a night time and there's thousands of people on the concourse and there's problems with the trains, rather than get stressed out and stand on the platform and get annoyed with everyone and everyone's getting annoyed with you, I usually retreat to the grocer, spend a couple of hours here and let all the problems die down a little. Doesn't always work, but it's a useful tip for surviving long-term and long-distance commuting. As I said, the grocer has been a real friend over the years. We're now heading back in the direction of Commercial Street and the 10 Bells and Christchurch Spitalfields that we saw some time ago. We're on Toynbee Street and we'll be having a look at some regeneration very soon. The redevelopment looks really smart. I'm not quite sure what its use is going to be, commercial, retail, but let's hope it's homes for people. One thing Spitalfields has become well known for over the last maybe 10-15 years. This is street art, graffiti art, whatever you wish to call it. But I quite like this painting, this mural on the right hand side. We're now entering the famous historic Petticoat Lane market area. This comprises Wilkes Street Market and Middle Street Market. In Tudor times, Middlesex Street was known as Hog's Lane, which was a pleasant lane lined by hedgerows and elms. And it's thought that often city bakers were allowed to keep pigs in this lane. By 1608, the area had become a commercial district where many second-hand clothes and cheap goods were sold and exchanged, and that's where the name Petticoat Lane came from. It's also where the Spanish ambassador had his house, and during the reign of James I, many Spaniards lived in the area. The area was particularly affected by the Great Plague of 1665. You can imagine it being heavily populated with poor sanitary conditions. But I love some of these views where you've got the juxtaposition of the new modern city with all the glass, chrome and skyscrapers against the old Georgian and Victorian housing and commercial properties that you see in this area. We're in Broome Street at the moment and we're going to see something really special. It's the Jewish soup kitchen that started in 1902. Over £10,000 was raised from local Jewish charities to build the soup kitchen, and it ran for over 40 years until the end of the Second World War. It's a symbol of the tremendous Jewish community here and strong bonds and really the deep care they had for each other, protecting each other in times of poverty. And it wasn't the first soup kitchen. There'd been soup kitchens here since the Huguenot weavers came at the end of the 1600s, and from time to time with economic recession these people faced hard times, so this was a way of providing sustenance and a way of supporting the poor in a time of need. Waves of immigration, Jewish immigration, really took place in the middle to the late 19th century. Many of these people coming from Eastern Europe and Russia escaping awful persecution. Many of the immigrants that came during the 19th century, rather like the Huguenots 150-200 years previously, brought with them a really good work ethic and really good technical skills around shoemaking and the making of clothes. Even today, with its close juxtaposition to the financial centre of the City of London, you still see many of these clothing workshops going on and fabric workshops, and it is a really good place to come if you want to buy clothes or fabric. The story of Spitalfields, really since the 1600s, has been a story of immigration and how much that has added to the culture of the area. We see it now with Brick Lane and the numerous curry houses. We saw it with the Jewish bakeries. I can even remember in the 80s starting work in the city when you used to go and get your sandwiches at Kossoff's Bakery. So, and even now, a lot of that tradition still survives in the area. I've said it before in a previous blog, but it's worth repeating because we really do need to thank people like Dennis Severs, Dan Cruickshank, Simon Bitty, for really maintaining the traditions of this area and really saving so many of these buildings that we've seen today. We're now back onto Commercial Street. We're just going to walk past the Christchurch Spitalfields and the 10 Bells again, and we'll soon be walking past Poppy's Fish and Chip Bar. I've heard so many people say that Poppy's is the best fish and chip restaurant in London. It's, I'm afraid to admit I've never been, which is really, feel quite awful really, but hopefully soon I'll try it and I'll be able to let you know what my opinion is. You can see with the blue plaque against the wall that the great comedian and leader of the Crazy Gang, Bud Flanagan, was born here in 1896. We're walking down Hanbury Street, and this is where one of the 5 murders of Jack the Ripper We're moving right into Wilkes Street, and this place is really special. And again, thanks to Ben Cruickshank, Dennis Severs, the Spitalfields Trust for preserving, since 1977, leading this campaign to preserve these wonderful buildings. It's this time capsule, this time machine that we're in, taking us back to Georgian and Spitalfields. These houses would have been populated by Huguenot silk weavers. This is living history. This place is just so special. I must have walked down Wilkes Street maybe 100 or so times in my life, and I never tire of it, never bore of it. I'm always fascinated by it. There's always something new to see. There's always some wonder, some spectacle. It is truly an amazing street. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, you arrive at 2 Wilkes Street, the last derelict house in Spitalfields, and you see this recreation going on to restore it as it was in 1909. You can see there, you can follow it at Spitalfields 1725 on Instagram. We're now in another famous street of the area, known as Flaneur Street. Flaneur Street, named after Huguenot silkweaver, or its descendant of Huguenot silkweaver, George Flaneur. It was formerly known as Church Street for obvious reasons, and this was one of the centres for the Huguenot silkweavers. We're coming now to one of the most famous shop signs in Spitalfields, Swartz, who I believe was a wholesale fishmonger that, after starting their business here, reputedly, moved more over to North London. I've been here for a couple of minutes and I've seen at least a dozen people come and take photos of this signage. I've done it myself many times and put on Instagram. I'm really getting carried away now, so I'll allow a few minutes of my verbal silence. You can just listen to the background music and just take in these wonderful sights. We're nearing the end of our video now. Thanks for joining us on our journey. I've missed out a lot of areas of Spitalfields, of course I have. I've not mentioned Norton Folgate. We've not gone down Folgate Street, which we've done before, which is another one of the great streets. So there's been a lot of omissions, but it will give me an excuse to come back another time. So thank you very much, and goodbye from Spitalfields.